Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio. I am your host, Ed Dentzel, and I come to you tonight on this show with a little bit of a rough voice, so I apologize beforehand. I've done everything I can to try to take care of it, but my allergies are kicking in. The weather has changed. I've told you about that. It's got a little bit chilly here, and I think I do have a little something going on with my sinuses. All of that adds up to some drainage and a voice that's hard to clear out. I think you'll be able to understand me today, but I don't know the quality of my voice. It's probably only going to be about 75%, and I think it's going to get worse the longer I go. But hey, I got to do this show, right? As I always tell you, you can email me at edwarddentzel@reagan.com. And then you can follow me on Twitter. And I just want to give a huge shout out to all of my Twitter followers. I have gained quite a few followers in the last few weeks. And I really appreciate that. I'm trying to give back. I know a lot of people get on Twitter and all they do is self-promote to the point of spamming everybody. All they want to do is talk about their books and their shows and their blog and everything like that. And I'm trying to not do that. With my Twitter feed, what I do, if you're not following me on Twitter, you should be, is I try to remind all of you that my show's coming up at 11 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, on my Twitter feed. Try to set that up for everybody so nobody forgets. Other than that, I just try to tell you what I'm reading, where I'm going, the articles that I'm perusing. Some of the articles make it into the show, some of them don't. It's just hard to say. But I just want to show you what I'm reading. Maybe you'll find it interesting as well. And I try to do that on a daily basis because those are the stories that are interesting to me. And the only amount of marketing that I try to do on my Dentzel Domain Twitter feed. Now, I have another Twitter feed, you should know, that has nothing to do with politics, and it has everything to do with my next book that's going to come out eventually. It's called The Comebacks. If you want to check that Twitter feed out, it's at Comebacks 2016. And you can find that. Over there, I do nothing but books and articles on writing, blogging, finding agents, literary agents, stuff like that. So if you want to follow me over there, just don't expect any politics to happen over there. But for my feed that is devoted to the political life that I have, it's Dentzel Domain, all one word, no space in between. That should be ingrained into your minds by this point. But with my Twitter feed, I don't try to do look at me, look at me, look at me. All right? Hopefully I'm putting information out there that you all can use so you can talk to your friends if you run into liberals. However you want to use it is up to you. I just want you to see what I'm doing, what I'm reading, and I don't do a ton of marketing on either of those Twitter feeds. You should know that. They are not spam accounts, that is for sure. So let's get to the show. By the time you listened to my show last night, it had happened, and that was Sarah Palin appearing with Donald Trump. And I think everything that I said yesterday is very true. Now, regarding her appearance, the specific appearance, I did not listen to all of it. I listened to some of it. It certainly sounds to me like she was not prepared. And I've listened to a ton of Sarah Palin appearances, speeches, interviews over the years. I've not watched any of her reality shows, but anything that was based in her doing an interview or her doing, a live performance, a speech somewhere, I've seen a lot of those. That one yesterday had to be one of the lowest quality that I can remember. Like I said, it was rambling. You could add that there was a little bit of a feeling of hysteria to it. She sounded a little hysterical. It sounded to me like she just had a bunch of boxes that she was going to check off, and that would be good enough. And I wasn't the only one. I listened to this before I listened to what she had to say, at least part of it, before I read what anybody else had to say about it. And their impressions were kind of the same thing. They had the same impressions. Why that is, I don't know. We don't know how long this has been planned. Maybe they got together on this months ago and Donald Trump said, you know what, if I'm still behind late in Iowa, I'd love for you to come down and do a speech for me. I could see something like that happening. And being that we are close to Iowa, he might have said, hey, Sarah, how about you come down tomorrow and come speak for me? And maybe that's why she seemed to be just a little unprepared. Maybe also, it also could be that she thinks that she can phone it in these days, being that she's had so many public appearances. And at this point, I'm going to guess, has no fear speaking in front of people. If you don't know that speaking in front of crowds is one of the biggest human fears, even bigger than fear of heights, flying on an airplane, the fear of death. Speaking in front of people is a fear that is ingrained in us. I don't know why that is. I personally don't have that fear. But maybe it's because of some of the things that I've done in my life, especially being a musician at one time. Performing in front of people can certainly get you over talking in front of people, because talking is much more natural than playing an instrument. And then, of course, I was an actor for a little bit and had to do some improvisation without any script, being stuck with people for long periods of time in a job that I used to have. So speaking in front of people is no problem, and I'm sure Sarah Palin has no problem with that either, but maybe she's gotten to the point where she thinks that all I have to do is show up and say this and it's going to be great. Well, I would not call how she said it great yesterday. What she said, yes. Her actual performance, I don't know. Let's put it this way. If she was speaking for a candidate that I liked a little bit more, I would think that she didn't do my candidate many favors. Now, I know she was loved. She got a huge round of applause. But as I like to say, you know what? I've seen a lot of bad magic acts get applause too. We have to keep that in mind. In fact, going off on a tangent for just a bit, with Donald Trump getting booed this past weekend, attacking Ted Cruz, there were a couple of Trump supporters on my feed that thought they were so smart, tweeting me and saying, well, you know, yeah, he got booed, but look at that long applause he got at the end. And I don't respond to these people, but I know my attitude toward performance. What I think I know about performance, both in entertainment and the theater or in sports. And you know what? Booing is much more genuine than applause. People will applaud at the end of almost anything just to seem nice. But if they go out of their way to boo, you know why? Because it's heartfelt. Especially when it's supposed to be a crowd that is to the performer's liking. If that performer's getting booed, you know why? It's genuine. Whereas the applause, some of it may be genuine, but it also could be some people just being nice. Whereas people don't boo to be nice. You know what I mean? So you have to think about that from this past week. And I forgot to mention that regarding Donald Trump calling Ted Cruz a nasty guy and all that went on this past weekend. But now that's been surpassed by Sarah Palin showing up. And as I was listening to what she had to say, like I said, I did not listen to all of it, just a portion of it. I keep coming back to this idea of revenge. And this is a topic that has popped up recently and really has popped up since I began to see these mainstream conservative media types showing Donald Trump some support. Now, some of them have backed off that a little bit. From what I've been seeing about what Rush Limbaugh has been saying on his show, seems to me he's backing off a little bit. Not a ton, but a little bit. Mark Levin backing off a little bit, even though at one time he could say nothing but nice things about Donald Trump. Of course, there are those who are not backing off. Ann Coulter, Laura Ingraham. But there's this idea, since this all started, this idea of revenge keeps running through my mind. Because none of these people can be, even though they may say it, and this is something that, this gets into the psychology of people. This is outside of politics. That people, agree with issues, disagree with issues, agree with people, disagree with people, sometimes for reasons that are not easily understood. And in fact, you may think that the reason is one thing and it's a complete other. You should never think that because somebody does something that you agree with or you disagree with, that you know their motivation. That would be a huge mistake. People are motivated for all different types of reasons. And this is why I've tried to tell you that, at least in Donald Trump's case, I'm not sure what he's motivated by nothing but winning. I don't think he gives a dang about immigration. I think he's a bad guy. So anything that comes out of his mouth, I have to be suspicious of it. So we move over to those media types who we normally agree with as conservatives. The people who have had shows, have been on Fox News for decades. And when they say, well, we support Donald Trump because of his stance, for example, on immigration, how do you know that's true? How do you know that's true? You've heard me talk about this in the last few months, this fear I have that conservatism is becoming a one-issue ideology. And it could be driven by people who look like they have one type of motivation, but it's really another. They're coding it in principle regarding, for example, illegal immigration. Could it be that it's something else? And this is where that, once again, getting back to that word revenge. That they can't, these media types. Now, see, for me, being that I'm kind of a new guy, conservative media type, certainly not part of the establishment, me and my humble abode down here in Madeira Beach, Florida, I don't have any baggage because I haven't been doing this that long. And I would probably say that for most of the people on Red State Talk Radio. We get our nasty emails. We get our nasty tweets. We've all probably been threatened. If we have any presence on social media, we've been threatened or made fun of and had people drop the F-bombs on us multiple. I mean, that happens almost daily for me now. Now that when you get 9,000 some followers on Twitter, you're going to get some F-bombs in your direction. That's just the way it goes. Well, think about, and for all of you I know who are listening to this who aren't who are just regular conservatives. You don't have a show. You're a teacher. You're an accountant. You're an engineer. You're a truck driver, or whoever you are. Well, imagine having to put up with F-bombs from people for 20 years. And being threatened, and your family being threatened. And you being stalked, and you have to get restraining orders against kooks. And even in Sarah Palin's case, a reporter moving in next door to her to do a book on her. And all the lawsuits that were filed against her. And I'm not trying to give her an excuse, but I think this is the way it goes. All the lawsuits that have been filed against her. And all of the people that have been after Rush. I mean, Rush Limbaugh has bodyguards for a reason. And Ann Coulter going to these college campuses once again over the years. And being shouted down and threatened. These people are human too, and I think that has worn on these people after a while. It's the very reason why I think that we need some turnover in our private conservative leadership. I'm not talking about politicians. I'm talking about those people who have made conservatism their job, their career. They make money off of it. That I'm not sure their leadership is as pure as it used to be, because I think that there are personal grudges behind the scenes that we as average people don't know, and it's simply because of them being around for so long. Remember, even popular NFL coaches get fired. The coach coming in may not even do anything different. It's going to be the same quarterback, the same offensive coordinator, most of the same defensive players, most of the same offensive players. But sometimes owners switch it up just because they think that they need to clean house, new perspective, new point of view, new opinions. The only team that doesn't do that in the NFL is the Cincinnati Bengals, who have kept Marvin Lewis around for all these years, and he hasn't won a playoff game. And we know what people think, sports fans think of the Cincinnati Bengals, even before they became the criminals in the NFL. It wasn't looked upon as a very good franchise. Well, you know what? Conservatism has become the Cincinnati Bengals. Being led by people who continue to be our leaders, and maybe they're just not well equipped to take conservatism in the right direction anymore. I'm not going to say that if somebody took Rush Limbaugh's place, they're going to totally change what conservatism means. I don't mean that. What I do mean is that when I see so many people jump on the bandwagon of a politician who is not conservative, is not. And Donald Trump makes no bones about that. But these people have made their career marketing conservatism. I get suspicious. And that these people don't seem to understand why the rest of us are suspicious tells me something. The fact is, I think that a lot of these people looked at Donald Trump and saw a person who is willing to upset the total apple cart, and these people saw him as a way to get revenge on all of those other media types and politicians who have attacked these conservative leaders over the years. And these are conservative leaders, these conservative establishment leaders, put their conservatism to the side for revenge. But they can't come out and say that. I'm telling you, that is the only thing that makes sense. Because I don't believe that they've actually been faking their conservatism for the last 20. I don't believe that Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, Laura Ingraham, Ann Coulter, even Sarah Palin have been faking their conservatism. So it has to be something else. Especially when there are other choices out there. There were other choices. Some of them aren't in the race anymore. But that they latched on to Donald Trump despite all of these other people involved is weird to me. And I think a lot of people who don't like Donald Trump are still trying to figure this out. And I think that's it. If they're taking out their frustrations through Donald Trump. And him whipping the finger over here, whipping the finger over there. Because they love seeing people who usually were on the winning side now being on the losing side. Those Republicans maybe who have made government bigger. And those media types from NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN, all of them who have criticized conservative media all these years. And it's something, I guess, that the rest of it's hard to understand because it's hard for us to put ourselves in those positions because most of us, aren't in a situation where we're being attacked all the time. Whether it's part of you have a job that's just not what happens, or maybe you're somebody like me who is new to this, who has no baggage. I do what Rush Limbaugh does. Obviously, I don't have the listeners that he does, but I've only been doing it for a short time. Well, anything that you get into, baggage collects. Resentment builds. When I think of this, I think about people who've been married 30, 40 years and all of a sudden they get divorced. It's the same kind of thing. I think that those people who got divorced after 40 years, it's not like they woke up 40 years in and said, yeah, we should be divorced. Probably the problem started years before that. Years. Just little by little by little. And then the final break comes in a divorce. The final straw, and that's it. Well, I think now that the conservative media that we've all been listening to and watching and reading for years has gotten to that point. And they're using Donald Trump as their weapon. They love seeing the RNC squirm. And I'm not saying the RNC is the greatest organization on earth. It's not. They love seeing the quote-unquote establishment, whoever that is, squirm. And I have no problems making any of those groups squirm. I have no problem having MSNBC and CBS and all those organizations squirm. I have no problem at all. But I only want it to be done through conservatism, not through revenge. I'm not interested in revenge. I'm interested in conservative winning the day through principles and values and character and integrity. And I think all of these people have put that to the side for revenge. That's what I hear or I heard when Sarah Palin spoke yesterday. And I see it on my Twitter feed. So many Trump supporters talking about, well, he's going to tear it all down. That is the language of revolution. Whereas we know there's no revolution. Donald Trump has convinced everybody that that's what's going to happen. Whereas I tell you, I look at his history, he's not interested in some sort of revolution at all. And I don't mean even a revolution with guns. His history tells me that he's just going to be more of the same. It's just he has a different type of personality compared to all of the Republicans who have come before him and offered up the same thing. Donald Trump is about is about as revolutionary as George W. Bush. He's about as revolutionary as Bob Dole. He's about as revolutionary as John McCain. The difference is that he's brash and he's in everybody's face. And he's not going to take any crap. Well, that doesn't mean anything to me. And it shouldn't mean anything to you. What's going to kill the United States is not necessarily political correctness. It's going to be in the embracing of liberalism overall. Something that Donald Trump has been more than willing to hug over the years. It's just not one little section of liberalism. It's going to be everything put together. And I'm not even so sure that Donald Trump even believes in has anti-PC beliefs, because we know how he reacts when people speak out against him. Oh, he's not a very nice person. He shouldn't have said that. Oh. These are puzzling times. It's tough to wade through all this and try to find the motivation for people that you don't know. I don't know these people. I don't know them personally, probably never will know them personally, and that's fine. You come to this show to get points of view from me and what I think about the world, what I think I know about the world after being on it for 45 years. And so I try to relate it to what I think I know about people outside of politics. And what I know is revenge is something that a lot of people want, especially if they've been wronged for a long time. This is no different than I was watching, 48 Hours on Idea, one of those shows where a woman in New Mexico, Arizona, shot and killed her husband, hid his body for 6 years. His body was finally found. Of course, she had been lying about it for the entire time, and even during the interview afterwards, she still says that the guy deserved it. And she didn't feel bad about lying. And, of course, she got some sort of revenge. She thought that she was going to be attacked that night, whereas the people investigating the crime believed that the guy was sleeping when she shot him. They're never going to change her mind on that. And this is, I think, where we've gotten to with Donald Trump. Conservative media, something that people were saying last summer, more average conservatives were saying last summer. They expected the conservative media leaders to talk straight about Donald Trump. They didn't do it. They put their own personal vendettas and, dare I say it, pocketbooks in front of the what they're supposed to be doing for their listeners and viewers. The listeners and viewers go to those shows to get conservatism and to get character, to learn about the character of conservatives and how to be a good conservative in these times when it's tough. Well, what these conservative leaders were doing was disguising their revenge as what those listeners and viewers wanted. And now we have a situation where we have a guy running who has momentum, and now we have to rely on him probably just shooting himself in the foot. I'm not saying that can't happen. Given Donald Trump's personality, I think that's probable. But that doesn't mean we should have been a party to it, or those other people, those conservatives, should have been a party to it this entire time. We have been misled. You have been misled by people who you've trusted for years, and this is what you get for it. I gotta go to the break. You've been listening to the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio.
Red State Talk Radio, feeding the hunger.
Hey, this is Alfonso Rachel with PJTV, Zone Nation, and the founder and drummer of 20 Pound Sledge, and you're listening to RedStateTalkRadio.com, the dominant force in conservative internet talk radio.
I'm a mom, and just like millions of other women, that's why I own guns. We're responsible, we're law-abiding, and we're everything that makes America strong. Every day we're willing to use a firearm to defend our families. But the media will never tell those stories. If a mom puts a gun to the face of a home-invading thug and makes him run for his life, the story gets buried. But if she's unarmed and murdered, the cameras will be at the scene before the police. It's time for moms like me to speak out. We are the majority. We demand the freedom to defend our families, and we challenge the media to tell the truth about our rights. I'm the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
What does it mean for a country when its citizens turn on the news and expect to be misled? Because the reporters who once served as freedom's fearless watchdogs feel like distant characters in a fading memory. Today, too many journalists are just actors, playing to their boss's script. Why tell the truth when you can sell a lie for more? There's a price to pay for all this dishonesty. If the free press won't protect free people, it's our job to demand they do it. Do the work you say you do. Aim your First Amendment against hypocrisy and corruption like a hammer of the people. Kick down the doors of any leader who deceives us, and never tolerate dishonesty from your own ranks. That's what the good guys demand. We're the 5 million men and women in the National Rifle Association of America, and we will not play along. Join us today.
This is Don Newen with Cowboy Logic Radio, and if you don't go to bed every night absolutely fatigued from trying to restore America from the destruction that is taking place, then you're simply not doing enough. Join me late night Tuesday, early Wednesday, 12:05 a.m. for Cowboy Logic Radio on RedStateTalkRadio.com.
We're back at the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio. I want to continue on this for a couple minutes. Of course, the jumping off point for my discussion in the first part of the show was Sarah Palin endorsing Donald Trump. You go to National Review, and I know National Review has fallen out of favor with many conservatives because of their support of Mitt Romney in 2012, coming out fairly early in endorsing him. And it's funny how they can't get away with endorsing Mitt Romney, but Sarah Palin can get away with endorsing Donald Trump. My impression would be that Sarah Palin, up until I thought yesterday, was more conservative than National Review is. But then she endorses a guy who's nowhere close to liberal, probably even more flip-flopper than Mitt Romney is, but National Review still gets more crap for supporting Mitt Romney. That's hard for me to understand. But Charles C.W. Cook there had an article there yesterday. You can still see it at nationalreview.com. That this doesn't surprise him at all. In fact, he pulled out something that he wrote months ago where he said that it makes total sense that Sarah Palin would endorse Donald Trump given the way her career has gone since she was a vice presidential candidate. And given who Donald Trump is and what his personality is. So I thought that was interesting. And it's not only that. On the same day or the day after Sarah Palin's son is charged with assault or something, some violent crime, that she still comes down here to make this speech. And then Bristol Palin, her daughter, gets involved in this, criticizing Ted Cruz. At one point, does it all become a circus? When do you think? You know, it's interesting. I have it written in my notes here that in the same week that David Bowie dies, of course, one of his most famous songs, most well-known songs, was called Fame. And what happens when you get famous and how people don't handle it usually very well. And he was writing from his own circumstances. David Bowie had a lot of issues, drug problems, and I'm glad he cleaned himself off. Great musician, seemed like a great guy. Unfortunately, he had to die so young. But in the week that David Bowie dies, and one of his most well-known songs is Fame, that you kind of get that impression with Sarah Palin. That Fame has done something to her and her family. If she never is picked to be John McCain's running mate, do we think that her daughter ever gets knocked up? Or does her son have all these problems all these years later? These years later, problems he's gotten into recently. All this drama that has happened in her family since, does that all still happen? Or does she just continues to be governor of Alaska, reruns, gets elected again, runs again, gets elected, just minds her own business up there in the northwest of the globe, of the Western Hemisphere? I'm inclined to think so. And I don't believe that fame and the fortune that Sarah Palin has found has been an overall good. I'm not sure about that for her family. The money, I'm sure, is good. Everything else, I don't know. It certainly does play out. It certainly does sound from this far away a little bit like the Kardashians. And this isn't new. I've told you. I love what Sarah Palin has done for conservatism in the last 5-6 years. But I was saying 3 years ago, well before I was on Red State Talk Radio, that this stuff about her doing these reality shows and all that, it's bad. It's going to lead to nowhere good. And I think I'm finally seeing that now. I think I was right about that. So, and I don't know at this point what can be done. She is on a path. She's on a path. As for what the other candidates are going to do, I don't know how much this is going to help her in Iowa. I mean, we'll find out fairly soon, being that the caucuses are in a couple weeks. We don't have to wait very long. But we'll see if she still has any cachet within Republican circles. There's an article out there, if you don't know, of her supporting a Democrat in Alaska who ended up winning and is now threatening to raise all of Alaska's taxes, among other things. So we'll see. Let's move on to something else. The Academy Awards. I tweeted out yesterday, and it got a favorable response, that blacks shouldn't give a dang about being involved in the Academy Awards. I know they're upset. I've still only seen a few of the movies that have been nominated in the various categories. I saw Bridge of Spies. I saw the Mad Max movie. I might have seen one other one that's been nominated for Best Picture. But the actor categories, supporting actor categories, have no black people in any of them. And there's only one prominent category where a black has been nominated, and I think that was Best Original Screenplay. I think for Straight Outta Compton, and I want to talk about that movie. I've not seen it, but I want to talk about that, though, in a moment. You know, you always got to wonder if, and I know that it's a lot of race baiting going on here, but for those people who are not in positions of leadership within the black community, I can understand Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Spike Lee, I guess Jada Pinkett Smith's out there talking about boycotting because they get attention doing that. I wonder if this really rings true. It's to your average black person. I'm not even saying that that person has to be conservative. I'm saying that that person could just be totally doesn't give a dang about politics. I'd like to try to talk to those people and tell them that you should not want to be a part of this process. The truth is, nobody gives a dang about the Academy Awards. Nobody gives a dang. A majority of the films are ones that most people haven't seen except for the couple that I mentioned. A lot of these actors and actresses will be here today, gone tomorrow. It is an award ceremony that has less and less viewers, or fewer and fewer viewers, every year. And the truth is, some of the best movies made from year to year never come close to getting a nomination. That you want to be, it's curious to me that if any of you are thinking that really blacks got ripped off in the Academy Award nomination process, you have to try to figure out, why do you want to be a part of it in the first place? Why? Because they aren't really looked on as being, let's put it this way. You can have a great career in Hollywood without ever getting a nomination for anything. Just remember that. Harrison Ford, last time I checked, he's a white guy. Has he ever gotten an Academy Award for anything? Has he ever even been nominated? Maybe he has. Maybe for Witness, maybe. Maybe. Regarding Henry, maybe something like that. But look at all the movies he's been. Look at all the money he's made. Look at all the money that those movies have made. You think Harrison Ford gives a dang about the Academy Awards? Really? Alfred Hitchcock, he never got an Academy Award. He's a white guy. You have to start thinking it in those terms. Don't, if the Academy Awards are the quote-unquote man, the man, don't try to get with the man. You should just be worried about doing your own thing. Do I think that there was any racism involved regarding any of these nominations? No, I don't. No, I don't. But just remember something. That industry that all of you are involved in is the ideology, part of the ideology that you hold as well. Remember that. That's not a bunch of conservatives who kept you out of getting nominated. That was a bunch of liberals who kept you out of being nominated. That's the first part I'd like to make about this. Now, the second part kind of goes along with that. Why would you want to be part of an industry that, for the most part, stereotypes you. Once again, this isn't liberals, this isn't conservatives doing that. It's mostly liberals, even though I know there are conservatives in Hollywood. It's mostly liberals doing this to you. I mean, it doesn't get more stereotypical that the movie that is, quote-unquote, black this year has to do with a rap group. Does it get any more stereotyped than that? I didn't see the movie. However, I will tell you, I know a little bit about NWA and Ice Cube and the rest of them. I've listened to that music once or twice in my life. I know about it. You may find that shocking, but I do. About Eazy-E and the rest of them. But even let's take, for example, somebody like Denzel Washington, who has played what you would call, I guess, a lot of non-black roles. Roles that could have been filled with either a white guy or a black guy, a Hispanic guy, an Asian guy. He has. Probably more than any other black actor. Maybe you could put Will Smith up there as well, even though Will Smith is not considered to be as highbrow an actor as Denzel Washington. Let's just put it that way. Although Will Smith, not recently, but in the past, has been popular. Although his concussion movie went nowhere. But Denzel Washington, what did he get his Academy Award for? At least his most recent one, which is now a few years ago, Training Day. What did he play? He played a crooked black cop. Now, does that make you happy? Now, he got his nomination, and he got his win. But looking at what he did to get it, does that make you happy? I wonder. That for him to get that, the voters had to see him in another different kind of light. And I don't know why you'd want that. See, to me, I guess I'd rather not get any Academy Award nomination and not be stereotyped than be stereotyped and get an Academy Award nomination or Academy Award win. Right? If you want to be individualistic and if you don't want to go along with what the industry is trying to, who they're trying to portray you as, instead, I hear all of this, read all this bickering out there about how Straight Outta Compton didn't get nominated. Are you that desperate that you want a movie? Granted, it was popular. And I guess it got some decent reviews. I didn't see it. Or I haven't seen it yet. Maybe I will sit down to see it one of these days. But do you really want something where the only way it could be done was with black people? So once again, you're being stereotyped. There's just something about there. Granted, I'm a white guy. I'm a 45-year-old white guy. And I'm not going to say I know what it's like to be a black person in the United States. But I do know a little bit about stereotypes. People find out that I'm white and that I have Irish ancestry in me, and they may think and they see that maybe my hair is mostly blonde, dark blonde, but maybe it has some gray in there now, but maybe a little bit of a red tinge to it. They may think, oh, you must be a drinker and everything. No, I haven't had alcohol for years. Just as a small example. Small example. You shouldn't want to be anything part of it. It's dirty. It's something that not many people care about. In fact, I don't even really know how many black people really care about their black actors getting nominations or not. I don't even know if anybody cares. If your average black person cares about that. I love movies. On my trivia team, I am the film expert. Seen a lot of movies, mostly older stuff. I'm not one of these conservatives that will go on for hours and hours about how Hollywood is corrupting the United States or anything like that. You know that's not me. But I also understand that for black people out there, that it's wrong that they want to be so badly accepted by an industry that obviously doesn't want to accept them, and will only accept them in certain roles at certain times if it fulfills Hollywood's message. That's what I think. You know, this I think this is more of a character issue that black people, they have to think of it in the terms of character and not of business. And that's tough. That's tough. Because I know there's a lot of money to be made. And there's a lot of young black actors, men and women in LA who feel they're not getting a break because of their race or whatever else. I would urge all those people to just do your things on your own. Don't be worried about being accepted by these people. Because a lot of these people who you think they think like you do, they don't. They see you as a tool. In fact, liberals see all minorities as a tool to get what they want. And shouldn't play along. Blacks who are involved in the entertainment industry should not play along. And you'd be much better off saying, we don't need those Academy Awards. They don't accurately reflect the movies that people watch. They don't accurately reflect the values of the United States. They don't accurately reflect who black people are when black people are put in movies. So the heck with it. Should just not want to be a part of it. Once again, from a character standpoint, not a business standpoint. Because Hollywood, once they got you, they'll never stop trying to tear down your character. And you wanting it, being desperate about it, could cause you to fall into their trap. Hollywood only wants you if it can portray you in a certain few ways. And I don't see that changing anytime soon because that's who they are. Don't be parts of groups that don't like you. And where you in groups that won't allow you to be you. That's what I'd tell them if black entertainers gave me a chance. One more thing, which was an interesting story. You know they're trying to tear down Confederate memorials in New Orleans. And there has been a company that has been contracted to do this. Well, the owner, the contractor's Lamborghini was burnt to the ground a couple nights ago. And the thought is, the popular story is that this was done because of people not wanting these monuments to be torn down. Of course, my suspicion is, first of all, what's a contractor for the government doing just flaunting a Lamborghini? Second of all, it was parked out in a parking lot at 3 a.m. when it was burnt to the ground. Who parks their expensive car just out in a parking lot anywhere where anybody can break into it or anything else? This sounds to me not like some guys with rebel flags burning down a Lamborghini or destroying a Lamborghini. It sounds more like insurance fraud to me, but what do I know? But you've been listening to the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio. You can find my books on Amazon.com. Just do a search for Edward Dentzel. You can go to EdwardDentzel.com, find all of my old Red State Talk Radio shows. You can go to EdwardDentzel.com /book. to download the first chapter of my next novel, The Comebacks. You can find my shows at SoundCloud, Podbean, and YouTube. You can also find me on Facebook and LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter, Dentzel Domain, all one word, no space in between. Thank you for listening tonight. You've been listening to the Dentzel Domain on Red State Talk Radio.